Hey folks, your OS Reviews. You're watching our video first look and a quick review of the Fundu Smart Band. This is a fitness tracker that competes at the lower segment of this competitive market, and for sub $15, it uses what I call the kitchen sink approach. It has a heart rate sensor, it also measures your blood pressure, and there's even a oxygen measurement sensor, which is a feature that I've never seen on other low-cost fitness trackers. So it combines tons of features from movement, sedentary to steps, typical sleep tracking, all those things with a touch OLED display for a very low price. You can find this directly on GearBest. Comes in a few different colors. We have a black version for review purposes. And in terms of design, it's a little bit reminiscent of the Xiaomi Mi Band 2. So some users were commenting that this seems to be similar in terms of its feature set, but obviously a lot cheaper. The side features a QR code that you can scan to download the free app. It works with both Android and iOS. You get some of the features on the side here. There's also a typical notification, so you can see the screen whenever you get a new call, text message, or social media update. The back here features some basic specs. We can see there's a 0.87-inch OLED display, which is rather generously sized. It's made out of both plastic and aluminum materials, so again, quite premium for a low cost. 60 milliamp hour capacity battery, which will last you for roughly 5 days on a full charge before needing to recharge it again. Charges up in under 2 hours and weighs 7 grams. It is also waterproof, so you can take it with you when showering or washing your hands, and it should still survive. So here's what the actual band looks like. You can see there is an accelerometer, which means that whenever you flick your wrist up using this gesture, it automatically turns on to give you a quick glance at the time. The display here is OLED technology, so it does remain pretty bright, although I don't think it's quite as bright as some of its competition. It has a slightly yellowish tint, so if we compare it to one I'm wearing, this is by Q-Band, you can tell that the font is a little bit smaller, so as a result, it's not as visible, but I like the font choice that they chose here. It remains quite animated, colorful, and seems a little different from what I've seen in the past, so it makes it definitely look elegant. The band itself has this circular design going on. The centerpiece, of course, can be detached, and you need to detach it for charging. Essentially, there are 2 contact pins, and you slide it into this included charger, which uses a flat ribbon wire, and then, of course, the whole thing can be plugged into a computer or into a USB socket for charging. There's also a quick user manual that's printed in full color with both English and Chinese that documents the various features and syncing it with your phone for the first time. So let's take a quick look at some of the features next. I would say that overall the build here is quite strong. The band itself, which has some aluminum accents, is very sturdy. It's a one-size-fit-all, and because it is quite slim and lightweight, it doesn't distract from typing or wearing this even when you're performing everyday actions. The capacitive key here is pretty sensitive. You have access to time, date, and battery information. Next, there's your step count, which uses, again, the accelerometer. Next, this shows you the distance, the calories burned. Here is the heart rate, which is in conjunction with the oxygen level measurement, so the blood oxygen level. It's, again, a very novel feature that I really haven't seen in low-cost fitness trackers in the past, but again, it's some additional source of information that can be glanced using the app, and even though it's not a super intelligent app, you can of course check your trends and then you know if something is going awry. Finally, there is access to the blood pressure measurement, which is also quite useful. It's actually an interesting technology, measuring blood pressure using a fitness tracker like this. Essentially, instead of using a traditional method of measurement, it takes your heart rate and then uses an algorithm based on common data and common trends to basically estimate what your blood pressure should be. It's actually fairly accurate, and I had no real complaints when testing it with a more formal equipment. But again, it's not going to be 100% accurate all the time, but for the purposes of a very quick, small, lightweight fitness band, it does a nice job on all. You can see the screen here is a little bit glossy, so it does attract a fair amount of fingerprints, but that's the only real downside to the design. It looks fairly elegant from a design perspective. So let's take a quick look at the app next. Again, it's called simply the Fundu app, and the animations are fairly colorful and seems to be aimed at a slightly younger audience. And you can see that we are able to track every state of our health, from our mood to our heart rate, our blood pressure, our respiratory rate through the oxygen level, and our fatigue level, maybe based on our sleep patterns. So it's actually a pretty interesting design. Connecting the band using Bluetooth and then syncing information is actually fairly swift, although the app that Fundu has created doesn't seem to be extremely specific to this band. I suspect that there are other fitness bands that will utilize some additional sensors. You can see that through the internet, it syncs up information like our temperature, UV, as well as atmospheric pressure, stuff like that. That's maybe even sensors embedded onto future fitness trackers that they will incorporate at some stage. But of course, everything that this fitness tracker does can be seen or glimpsed through the app. It's fairly easy to sync, and it's fairly automatic the first time after you've connected it using the app. So on the main screen, we have access to our steps, our distance, and calories burned. There's also another page for looking at our sleep, deep, light, and duration asleep. And finally, there's our heart rate data as well. And there's a data table that you can look at for referencing what your heart rate should be after setting up your profile and age information. You can also share your data with friends and family. Tapping on Me looks at your account data. You can enter things like your height, your stride length, stuff like that calibrates the step count a little bit more so that it doesn't accidentally trigger it if you are, let's say, shaking your hand or something like that. And it does that using the software. And in terms of more, we have access to our additional information that we can turn on or off, such as our sedentary, and notification. So overall, it's pretty simple and it's easy to use. I would say that as far as accuracy is concerned, this does, again, a respectable job. In terms of our steps, sometimes it does still count a few missteps. So if you kind of shake it, it counts it as a step. So perhaps this can be fixed in future software updates, but for now, it does work well enough, and it's in the ballpark of what you would want to know. Otherwise, again, with this heart rate sensor, it does do a pretty good job. You can see that it uses this one second generation kind of laser green LED light to measure that, and it takes your blood pressure as well as your heart rate within 30 seconds. And the nice thing about this technology is that as long as it's touching your skin, it can read it. It doesn't have to be super still. So obviously the optimal environment will be you staying still for 30 seconds, but you can still move around and kind of drink water or whatever while it's measuring the data. And it can turn on continuous heart rate monitoring so that it records your heart rate after each hour, after 30 minutes, and automatically sends that information to the phone when it's within close proximity to your device. So everything is fairly well thought out. And again, for sub $15, I'm just really impressed that they built in so many features and that it actually works quite well. Sure, it's not the best in terms of having the brightest display or the most accurate sensor in the world, but at this price point, you really can't complain. And I find the overall fit and finish to be actually quite elegant and attractive. So I would have no real complaints about wearing this for extended periods of time. You can check out more information in our official written review, but for now, this has been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. This has been the Fundu Smart Band low-cost fitness tracker.